All right, we're here at Two Row today. This is a brewery that's in Midvale, Utah. We're really excited about this place as the Latter-day Brewers because of the fact that this is kind of spawned from the Latter-day Brewers in so many different facets, and I really kind of want to get down to that. We're here today with the owner, Brian Coleman, and we're here with Clay Turnbow as well, who's the head brewer here. Want to just kind of talk to them a little bit and see what their kind of style of brewing is and kind of where home brewing brought them into this whole professional brewing thing. So guys, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's kind of really known that you guys are both home brewers, okay? It's really known amongst the club that you guys started out as home brewers. Also, many professional brewers have. What initially got you guys into home brewing?
Well, want to take this, Brian?
I'll start. Really, my wife bought me a homebrew kit initially for Christmas. I also had a poker group that we got together once a month, and some of my first tastes of homebrew was from the guys in the poker club. And so there was a couple that had some extra equipment, and they turned me on to some extra equipment from the poker group, and started making beers and bringing them to the poker games, and it just kind of evolved from there. Every time we made a home brew, we just always wanted to. The very first one was, wow, I made beer. This is incredible. I can't imagine that it tasted very well, though. I think I was just so excited that I actually made beer, and then after a while, it was like, I think I want to make better beer. So that's when the studying started, and the equipment purchases, started going up.
That lead you to joining the homebrew club a little later on?
Yeah, that was a while. I actually had joined and was working with ZZ Hops.
Oh, great.
Joining their group for a while before Latter-day Brewers even officially started.
Huh, cool.
So that's kind of where my roots started, and then realized I had a lot of friends in the Latter-day Brewer group, and started doing both clubs.
Cool. Cool. Clay, what's kind of been your experience? What got you into home brewing?
So what got me into home brewing was back when I was 21 in college. I think I was at like Bed Bath & Beyond and saw a Mr. Beer kit and was just blown away that I could make beer at my house. And I had kind of started to develop a better taste of beer when I was 21. I was buying more like Sierra Nevada and Sam Adams, and was like wondering what else could be out there. And so I was, I'm going to try and do this at home. Like the scientific aspect of it was really appealing to me. So I bought the Mr. Beer kit and started doing those it was actually started in the dorm room, which was probably really illegal. But I got my own place and started doing the Mr. Beer kits, and they were, honestly, if I tasted them now, they probably wouldn't have been very good. But it was just like so proud of something that I'd made at home that I really enjoyed them, but then I wanted to see what else I could do, and the Mr. Beer kits were kind of limiting, and that's when I finally went down to the Beer Nut down in Salt Lake City and got some nicer equipment and started doing the extract kits and the brew in the bag kind of deal.
Yeah.
So
cool. So you've gotten into a brew club. You've been home brewing for a while. Brian, why did you go the direction of wanting to say, okay, I think I want to do this professionally? Like, what was the turn for you?
I think it was always in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was something I wanted to do, real soon after I started homebrewing. I'm very entrepreneurial. I've been self-employed all my life, and I'm constantly looking for opportunities to start a business. And it's one of my favorite things to do is to start a business from scratch. So I've been able to, do two of my favorite things all in one shot, so to speak. And obviously one is business. I love business. I love watching a business grow. I love, finding problems and trying to solve problems, and that continues to help grow the business. And then adding the beer making to the mix was just a giant bonus, and so it was an industry that I seriously had been watching for a lot of years as I continued to improve my home brews, continued to improving my just the entire craft and the beers and my recipe list and everything that goes along with that. As things got better and better, I started taking classes with professional brewers. I would jump at a chance, like to run down to White Labs and take their yeast class, or I spent a week with quality control class at Oregon State. Things like that, where I just wanted to make my home brew as good or better than some of the professional brews that are out there, and after a while I felt that I was on that kind of level, and after winning multiple homebrew awards, the first time I ever entered a competition was the National Homebrew Competition many years ago, and I was hoping for 1/3 place. I think I sent 6 beers in, and just hoping, just crossing my fingers, hoping for something.
What were those styles that you think you sent in initially?
I can't remember. I liked doing lagers at the time. Awards were really easy with lagers, it seemed to be. Not a lot of people had the equipment to do lagers.
Yeah.
So I remember doing lagers. I remember doing IPAs, of course, because we love those, and imperial stouts. So I remember that first contest that I ever entered, hoping for just anything cool. Ended up winning 2 first place and 2 third place.
Cool.
So we took 4 awards on the not in the finals, but we got to send them to the finals though.
Super. Clay, kind of what's your experience in trying to get into home brewing, and like what was your experience going from home brewing to professional brewing, and you went to Epic. Tell a little bit about that.
Right. So I homebrewed for it was probably about 6 years, all through college, and then while I was trying to figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life, I kind of figured, I'm in my 20s, the best time to just try something new is now. So I kind of weighed the options of saving up money to try and go to like UC Davis or Oregon State and get a proper education. But I started talking to the local professional brewers, and they kind of urged me not to spend the thousands and thousands of dollars to go to school until I knew what it was like to work in a brewery. It's quite different than homebrewing.
Hugely different, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, I did a couple working interviews around the valley at other breweries, but I knew a guy named Ryan Buxton, who is still probably always going to be an honorary member of the Latter-day Brewers, even though he lives out of state now. Yeah. He was working at Epic and was in the homebrew club at the time, and kind of suggested I apply for a packaging job at Epic. It's just an entry-level position. Applied for the job, got the job. Loved it. Even though you're not brewing, just working with the beer and working with something that you're passionate about, it was great. And Epic was great to me. And over the course of about 6 months to 10 months, I worked my way through packaging up to the cellaring program, doing filtration and transfers, cleaning tanks and all that stuff, up into learning the brew house and becoming a brewer there. And I loved every minute of it. Never looked back, and decided that brewing was something I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Cool. So what brought you guys together? Like, what was the catalyst that led to Brian, you bringing Clay on?
Well, I knew I couldn't do everything at the brewery myself. I was literally trying to do all the brewing, trying to do sales, running the front counter, asking volunteers to help packaging when we we were trying to bottle batches. Didn't have. I had one employee, Sean. He was the hardest working guy I've ever met. But I knew at some point I needed to to hire a brewer, and Clay and I had been friends for a couple of years before that through the brew club, obviously, and I always thought that he was very, very tight with Epic, and that he just would never leave. So I never did approach him until I heard that he had applied at a different brewery, and I said, "Whoa, Clay's looking." and it was not long before that I was judging the homebrew competition, and I've talked about this story a few times where we're at the final table. There's 6 judges, trying to determine the best beers of the entire 600-700 entries. And there was 2 beers I fought tooth and nail for, and I felt one needed to be the number 1 top beer, and I felt the other should have been 3rd place. And with the 2nd place was a really awesome beer as well. But I literally, sometimes that final table is just knocked down, fist fights almost, not quite really, but I was fighting tooth and nail for these 2 beers, and I didn't know they were Clay's at the time. After the fact, we found out who those 2 beers were, and they were phenomenal, and so I actually, it came down to a vote, and I lost the vote, so he didn't get the top beer of the entire show, but
you think he should have, is what
I think he should have, absolutely. And so to that was one of the things that was like, wow, Clay is a solid brewer, and he knows what he's doing, and I don't know if he's that tied to Epic or not, but I am going to ask, and we're going to find out, and that's what I did.
Cool. So Clay, kind of what's been your experience here, Clay? I think that I've talked to you a few times, in the past, where you've said that this has been really cool. Tell me a little bit about it.
Right. Like, coming here, the big draw to me to Two Row, and I won't ever say a bad word about Epic. They were so good to me. I missed being such a key part of the entire process of the beer, like seeing it from grain to glass to the consumer enjoying it. And I felt a step away from that at Epic. I felt like I just was brewing beer, and then I would never see that beer again, and until it hit the customer's glass. So I really love seeing a beer from grain to glass, and it was something that I saw at Two Row I would get the chance to do. And not only that, I felt like I would get more input on recipe design and what direction we're gonna go with the beers. And Brian was very open with me that we're gonna be a team with these beers. We're gonna figure out what we want to do together, and if we need to tweak recipes, we'll tweak recipes. And it has been that to a T. It's been Brian I come to him with an idea that, hey, I want to do this beer. I want to do a traditional saison, but then late hop it with American hops, and I want to put yogurt in it so that it'll be a little sour too. And Brian looks at me a little crazy, and he's like, all right, let's try it.
I'm still trying to get him to come up with a name for that beer too. I told him, I said, you're going to name this beer as well, so you need to take it from start to finish.
So what are the ideas off the top of your head for that beer in terms of name?
I know, and I haven't come up with a name yet, and we need to brew it again soon for the summer.
And customers keep asking for it. They come in the bottle shop and say, we make that sour beer again. I loved it. And I think that was a great beer because we soured one batch and then made another batch non-soured and then blended the 2 batches.
Oh, cool.
And I really enjoyed that because I don't like the beers that make me feel like I'm drinking pure acid. And they're just sometimes harsh. So being able to blend this beer was really cool, because you could taste the base beer and the backbone of the beer, and still have, there was still plenty of sourness to make it very interesting. So it's great beer, and we definitely need to do it again.
Cool. So, because I think a lot of people out there, especially in a homebrew club like we're a part of, I think a lot of people are curious. What are the similarities and differences between professional brewing and home brewing? What would you say the biggest things are? I mean, obviously scale is probably one of the bigger ones.
For me, scale was important. Scaling a beer, the color doesn't seem to change much at all. It's the bitterness that really was different for us, or for me. If you just scaled it up and then left everything the same, the beer turned out so much more bitter than it should have been. And so we definitely dialed back the IBU calculations when scaling a beer from homebrew size. One of the things I really learned was, with the help of some other professional friends, was oxidation. And we figured this out really quick. The first couple of batches here were really oxidized, and with the help of a couple different breweries, actually, they brought their dissolved oxygen meters over, and we figured out a plan to get those numbers greatly reduced, and realized that just blowing a little CO2 into the bright tank just wasn't enough. So we now have a process now where we're purging the bright tanks literally for an hour and a half to get the parts per billion oxygen down to the levels where they need to be before the transfer happens. And that was probably the the biggest thing for me to learn, changing from homebrew to professional.
Yeah. Clay, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me as a brewer, going from homebrew to professionally brewing, is you kind of have to take in consideration when you're coming up with a recipe a number of new things. Is you obviously have to think of cost to a certain degree. I mean, customers are willing to pay obviously a bigger price point for quality craft beer, but you do have to take that into consideration, and you also have to take into consideration that the beer needs to sell. So like, as much as when I was a home brewer, I off the cuff could go down to the Asian market and find some random crazy ingredient to throw into the beer just to see if it would be good. You can't quite do that on the professional level. Even the government, like the TTB, has to know, like, you have to have recipe formulations for random ingredients that aren't pre-approved. So you have to take that into consideration. And you also, like what Brian said with oxygen, these beers can sit in package. Like, even if you come buy it from Turo, we obviously keep it cold. But there's a good chance that beer is going to be sitting in package for 8 weeks, and you have to take into account, is that beer still going to taste good in 8 weeks?
Yeah. So what kind of stuff you have coming up, guys? What kind of cool beers are you guys brewing right now that is maybe different and maybe secret?
Well, should we let out the secrets? No, not a big deal. Go ahead, Clay.
I mean, obviously we're bringing back Mikey's IPL, our Pilsner style beer with mostly Citra hops, is coming back, that we had last summer. We have
Mikey being the Utah beer blog guru,
right,
who runs that. Who, by the way, congratulations, guys, on winning the best beer in that whole entire bracket in March.
Nice, thank you.
Thanks.
We're pretty excited about that, and that's we're excited about the win, but more importantly to us as a new brewery, we're excited about how we're looked at and our reputation in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And we think we'll have a lot of growth to come because of that.
Sure. So you got the Mikey's IPL, right? Yep. What else?
And the label's done, and we got Mikey's big head on it. Every time I look at it, it just makes me smile. So it's a pretty funny label. I can't wait to get it out there and share it.
Right. We also have we one of our favorite things to do here is, and I don't know if it drives Brian crazy, is looking for new hops and asking Brian to buy new hops, because every time we get new hops in here, it's fun to play around with IPAs. Because the local market loves IPAs, and we've kind of built a reputation on making good IPAs. And
Sure.
whenever we can get something new in, it's fun as a brewer. I mean, that's the best part about being a brewer, honestly, is when a new ingredient comes into the brew house and you're doing the smell test and rubbing hops all over your hands, trying to figure out how to make this into something delicious. So there'll always be new IPAs coming from Two Row. We have a new one in the tank right now that's a similar grain bill to Taste Like Citrus, bumped up to, we're thinking it's going to finish around 9.5%, and using new hops that Taste Like Citrus doesn't use. We're going for more of like a fruity kind of taste to that one. So
tropical fruity.
Yeah, rather than like the citrus pith that I think you get in Taste Like Citrus. So that's coming down. We're trying to expand the barrel program for more barrel-aged Imperial Stout. We have expanded the barrel program, so the next release should be bigger, and we're trying to expand it further.
Cool.
So.
Cool.
There's only a couple of us that work here full time, so it's we working overtime to come up with the new ideas and still keep up with things like TTB taxes and all the stuff that actually that I'm doing today that is no fun, but has to be done. So I'm usually late on all the taxes just because I hate doing them. The accounting and everything that goes along with that is part of the business that it's not as enjoyable as getting out to the brew house and so things we gotta take care of before we go back out and have more fun.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I feel bad. I'm out in the back and I'm feeling like I'm stirring this huge, heavy, thick mash. Like, man, this is so hard. And then I look at Brian and he's doing accounting and taxes. Like, no, this is okay. This is okay. This is better.
So is there anything additionally you'd like the listeners to know about, like, what you guys are up to, or just anything else?
We've always got a bunch of ideas going back and forth, but other than those, nothing else is firmly planned right now. We've got a lager strain in house right now, so I mean, as a brewer, I'm constantly knowing like when that strain's going to be available for me to use again, and so I'm just running ideas through my head of what we could make as a lager. Mm-hmm. So,
the limited release beer label that we have is a lot of fun, and I think it's one of the best things we've done was to be able to change the beers up. Not doing a lot of low point beer, draft beer. It's difficult for us to change it up quickly, and it's nice to be able to walk in and say, let's brew, let's brew another hazy tomorrow. And as long as we've got the ingredients and things, we can pretty much brew whatever we want on the fly. As long as things on the label, there's certain conditions that we can and can't do. But that really allows us to change the beers up frequently. That allows us to try new things and try new ideas. When we first brewed Taste Like Citrus, it was something that was in the back of both of our heads for a long, long time. And we weren't sure how well that would go over here because Utah just doesn't have any access to those types of beers. It's very difficult to get some of those trendy new beers from Treehouse and Trillium and some of the New England style breweries. So we thought, what's the worst that can happen? We've got to, toss it if it doesn't sell.
Right.
And that first batch of that beer sold 10 times faster than anything we've ever had, and it was just a fantastic beer, and with that label, sometimes you hit a winner, and sometimes it takes 3 months to go through a batch. Yeah. So it's neat to be able to try new things and see what the market wants and see what the market expects from us, and it's all judged by sales.
Cool. Well, Brian, Clay, thanks so much for joining us. Two Row Brewing is out in Midvale, Utah. They've got a bottle shop here, which is probably the best way to possibly come and pick up some of their beer. They've got growlers. They've also got tons of bottles that of all sorts of different styles, and I think that there's probably a style for everyone in that cooler in the front room there. And if you're feeling froggy, you might even ask one of them and say, hey, can I come even just tour the brewery? I think it's pretty much an open place here for people to come and hang out and stuff like that to some sense. Wanted to thank you guys again so much. You can find some of their other beers in the state liquor stores. You can also buy them at some of the different restaurants and bars around town. So thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Eric.